The night they found Mark Holloway dead, I was washing his blood off my hands, not because I'd killed him, because I'd tried to save him. The water in the sink of the Holloway farmhouse ran rusty red, spiraling down the drain like it was embarrassed to be seen. My hands shook so badly I could barely keep them under the faucet. I remember thinking, very calmly, very clearly, that this was how people ended up on the evening news, not because they were guilty, but because they were there. Outside, the cicadas screamed like they always did in August, loud and mindless, filling the Iowa night with noise so thick it felt intentional. Inside, Mark Holloway lay face down on the kitchen floor, his skull crushed, his blood soaking into linoleum I'd walked across 100 times. And my fingerprints were everywhere. I was 32 years old, a high school English teacher in the town of Briar Ridge, population 6, 104. I graded essays. I sponsored the debate club. I returned shopping carts to their proper place. I was the kind of woman people described as quiet, which in Briar Ridge meant harmless. That night, I learned how quickly quiet women become dangerous in other people's stories. Briar Ridge was the kind of town that smelled like cut grass and old money. It had one main street, 2 churches, and a sheriff who'd been elected 4 times because no one could imagine anyone else doing the job. I grew up here, left for college, came back when my mother got sick, and never quite managed to leave again. People said things like, "You're a good daughter," the way they might say you're a good chair, useful, stationary. Mark Holloway wasn't from Briar Ridge originally. He married into it. His wife, Ellen, had been born here, beautiful in a way that felt inherited. She died 5 years earlier in a single car accident that everyone politely stopped talking about after the funeral casserole dishes were returned. Mark stayed. He became something like a ghost with a pulse, present, tolerated, watched. So when he called me that night after 10 p.m., I knew something was wrong. "I think someone's been in the house," he said. His voice was tight, afraid, not the voice of a man looking for casual conversation. I drove out there because I was stupid enough to believe doing the right thing kept you safe. The Holloway farmhouse sat alone at the edge of cornfields that went on forever. No close neighbors, no streetlights. Just darkness and wind. I found the front door open. That should have been my cue to turn around. Instead, I walked inside and called his name. The kitchen light was on. A chair was overturned. There was blood on the counter, smeared like a handprint. And Mark was still breathing when I reached him, barely. His eyes found mine, unfocused but desperate. He tried to speak. Blood bubbled at his mouth. I pressed my hands to his head, useless, panicking, begging him to hold on while I called 911. That was when I heard footsteps behind me. I turned. No one was there. By the time the sheriff's cruiser lights cut across the windows, Mark Holloway was dead, and I was kneeling in his blood. Sheriff Daniel Crow didn't raise his voice when he arrested me. He didn't need to. The calm disappointment in his eyes was worse. "Emily," he said, like my name was something fragile I'd dropped. "Why don't you tell me what happened?" I did, he nodded, took notes. Asked the same questions twice, then again. Why was I there so late? Why didn't I call him instead of coming alone? Why were my fingerprints on the fireplace poker? The poker I hadn't even noticed until he pointed it out. The murder weapon, found wiped clean. Except for me, Briar Ridge turned on me quietly. No shouting, no vandalism, just distance. Parents pulled their kids from my classes. The principal put me on indefinite leave. The cashier at the grocery store stopped making eye contact. The local paper ran my mugshot under the headline, "Teacher questioned in farmhouse slaying questioned felt generous." They released me after 48 hours. No charges yet, but everyone knew it was coming because towns like Briar Ridge don't like uncertainty. They prefer a villain. The first person who came to see me after my release wasn't a lawyer. It was Ruth Holloway, Mark's sister. She sat across from me in my living room, hands folded, eyes sharp as glass. "You were the last person to see my brother alive," she said. "I tried to save him." She smiled, thin and cold. That's what guilty people say. Before she left, she paused at the door. Mark was going to tell the police something. she added casually, the night he died. My stomach dropped. Tell them what? She shrugged. He didn't say. If Mark had been afraid enough to call me, it meant someone he trusted was involved. That list was short. Ruth, Sheriff Crow, Pastor Lewis, and Claire Benton. Claire had been Ellen Holloway's best friend. Still lived 3 houses down from me. Still brought flowers to Ellen's grave every Sunday. She cried when she saw me, hugged me tight, whispered, "I know you didn't do this." At the time, I believed her. I started digging because no one else would. Mark's phone records showed multiple late-night calls to one number in the weeks before his death, Claire Benton's. When I confronted her, she laughed softly. Mark was unstable, she said. After Ellen died, he imagined things, threats, secrets. He called everyone. That night, I asked. Her smile faltered for half a second. He didn't call me that night, but the records said otherwise. I broke into Mark's house 2 days later, not because I wanted to, because I was already condemned. I found what he'd been hiding behind a loose floorboard in the bedroom, insurance documents, life policies. Ellen Holloway's policy had been changed 6 months before her death. Beneficiary, Claire Benton. Ellen's death hadn't been an accident. Mark had discovered that weeks before he died, and Claire knew he was going to the police. The night he called me wasn't because someone had been in his house. It was because she was there. I realized the truth too late. Claire had used me, called Mark, arrived first, killed him, then called me from his phone, knowing I'd come running. Knowing my hands would be on him, knowing Briar Ridge would choose the quiet teacher over the grieving best friend every time. The trial lasted 9 days. The evidence I uncovered reopened Ellen's case. Claire broke on the stand when the phone records were introduced. She screamed, cried, claimed she loved Ellen too much to lose her. The jury didn't take long, guilty on both counts. I still live in Briar Ridge. People smile at me again. They say things like, "We always knew you were innocent." I nod. At night, when the cicadas scream, I remember Mark's blood on my hands. I remember how easily I disappeared into someone else's lie. And I know something this town will never admit. The quiet ones don't scream, they survive.